Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the SlipStream. Today, we are going to be talking about a game which does not exist. Yay! So we're going to be talking about what we would like to see in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. So today we have four very special guests, and their names are Soy Sauce.
Hey.
We have Jerry.
Hello.
We have Enel.
Hello.
And we have Zeke.
Hi.
Alrighty, and without any further ado, let's get started. Alright, so the first thing we're going to talk about is what we think the new quote-unquote Blade gimmick could be in the next upcoming game. So, who would like to go first and talk about that? Because all the
I would just like to make one point, because this is the one that I really don't have much of a prediction for.
Okay.
Because this is a very difficult thing to predict, considering go from X, where it is just the name of an organization and an anagram beyond the logos, artificial destiny, emancipator, and then to Xenoblade 2, where they are these weaponized living beings. I don't think there's a way to really predict what Blade is going to mean next.
This is where you do gotta get creative, and think outside the box.
So I'm just going to come out and say,
Yes.
I would like to see choice, the power to see that you can choose different builds for certain situations, like in 2, that you can do right now, but not too much choice to the point where it over bombards you with.
I think. Are you
so
talking about
much
the
choice.
comeback? Because that's the next category.
Well, I mean, that's like for gameplay. Like, you can choose so many things for both. Like, you can choose between pulling a common core, or rare core, or legendary core. You can choose between so many skills, so many different ways to do battle, or choose different blades for field skills. I would like to see that much choice, but not too much choice to the point where you just feel like you don't know what to do anymore.
So more choice than Torna, but way less choice than 2 is what you would like to see.
Not way less.
Just like half
I don't
less
think
about.
way less is trying I'm not trying to go for like way less. I'm talking about like a little bit less.
Okay. All right. I see. All right. So Zeke. I mean not Zeke. Jerry. What about you? What would you like to see?
This question is a very weird question to answer, because honestly, answering what the gimmick would be kind of pretty much asking, predict what the story will be about, because Monolith tends to make its mechanics based around a story. When it made Blades in 2, they were based around the story concept of Blades, and when they made the vision mechanics in 1, it was based around the vision and the visions in the story. So it just feels weird answering this, because it feels like knowing the answer to this would involve knowing the story and how they can incorporate the story into the mechanic. It's just way too weird of a question to answer.
Honestly,
All
I kind of think that the Blade concept in 2 it makes more sense from a gameplay standpoint than it does from a lore standpoint, but that's not what we're talking about. So.
Well, again, I'm just asking for what would you like to see, So it may be that whatever you want to see may not happen at all. So yeah. So I mean,
Blade
obviously.
gimmick in Xenoblade for it to be Tyrea's Fies.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, we're gonna have to cut that out. Not gonna lie.
No, that's wait. Wait. Do you mean the joke or the whole part?
No, the joke.
Cut everything that I say.
Okay, no. All right, I know. What about you? Do you have something, or you?
Well, to be honest, I don't even know if it necessarily needed to have a gimmick designed around the word blade. So, first Xenoblade game wasn't originally going to be titled Xenoblade, so the Xenoblade in that sense was just probably a reference to the Minato, of course. And then in X, of course, they had the Blade organization that was whatever the heck it stands for. I don't even remember at this point. Something about Better Earth. So, and so you had that. That was the excuse to have something named after Blade in that game. And then in Xenoblade 2, obviously, you have the actual huge Blade system. So it feels like they are trying to incorporate the word Blade into the game in some way, but I don't necessarily think they have to do something like that. I think just you can just have the Xenoblade game where you just focus more on the lore of the series rather than worrying about if it incorporates something to do with blades myself. But if there is some kind of gimmick, I'm not actually sure where they could go from here, because they already have an organization called Blade and X. They already have the Blade system in 2, which I don't think they're going to reuse again, because they usually like having different kind of mechanics in games. Right. And they already have Blade as referring to a sword, so I mean, I really don't think they're going to have any mechanic revolving around the gimmick of the word Blade in the next game myself. That's probably my prediction there. I think the next Blade game is just going to be more of a...
like an Infinity War, where they connect everything together.
Sort of. But that's getting into a different topic, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's for a third category, so it's us, but yes.
I just wanted to say, because he said he doesn't remember the acronym for Blade. There's 2 different acronyms depending on what version you're playing. In English, it is Builders of a Legacy After the Destruction of Earth, and in Japan, it is Beyond the Logos, Artificial Destiny Emancipated.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
All right. Now,
I don't know why I remember that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you can talk. I'm so sorry, I'm talking.
No, it's fine. Now, I actually did spend some time to think if they were like what could be the next logical blade system. So I did work hard on it. So so yeah. But yeah. So what I think it could be is it's gonna be a range of weapons / items which can grant tremendous power. Now, for example, what I'm thinking is sort of, but not really like Chaos Emeralds, but they're actual weapons, and they don't all have to just be like the sword or something. They can be different type. Like one can be a gun, one can be an actual sword, one can be a hammer, but basically we're gonna have I think 5 or 7 or any number, but we're gonna have a few of those, and basically what the plot could be, or one of the plot could be, is that basically the protagonist, they have to get these blades before the bad guy does, or something like that, because the one who can wield these blades to still be very powerful. And yeah, and other than that, that's all I have to say for this part. What do you guys think of that? I guess
I think it sounds pretty... It sounds... Yeah, I think that sounds pretty doable, or it sounds very reasonable.
Now wait until you see or wait until I talk about the lore. But I'm getting ahead of myself. That's for another category.
That just sounded a little bit. That sounded a lot like just how the blades in Xenoblade work.
Well, wait, in 1 or 2? I'm sorry, because
2, I meant. Yeah.
2. Well, yeah, but actually, except they're not a living being. They're just a weapon. They're an inorganic object, as you could say, and they don't have to just be weapons. They can just be items, just called blades too. I guess a similar something could be in Final Fantasy 15. They have the royal arms, though. I mean, that's but yeah, but sort of similar-ish. If you play Final Fantasy 15, you might know what I'm talking about. But yeah.
Yeah, I just meant that sounded a lot like the concept with blades that's already in Xenoblade 2, but without like the complicated stuff like this. Just kind of sounds like blades if they made more sense.
Yeah, but yeah, except in this, I don't think we would have like hundreds. I think like we just have like I'd say at most 10ish, you know, or well actually even 10 is pulling a little higher, but you know, but you get the idea. Like I'd say 7ish is like a good number, but yeah. All right, so now let's move on to the combat category. So soy sauce, I think you wanted to go first in this category, so go ahead.
So with if in a Xenoblade 3, I would like to see like definitely a lot of variation in the combat, like a lot different solutions to one situation. I'd like to see the ability to change around skills and your build every time on different characters, so you can maybe do something better or be faster or something like that. Because one thing about Xenoblade 2 that I really like is that you can kind of just like put like you have 3 blades for each character, and 3 is a good number because you can easily limit how much variation you have. And it's varied enough that you can change out your build or your setup every time, and it can be something different, or it can be better or worse. And I would definitely like to see something like that.
Interesting. So what you're saying is like you want to see something. I think you also talked about this in the last category where you want to see like, you know, like there's some customization, but like it's not too much, as because in 2, like, you know, like you can select between like hundreds of blades.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. Okay.
I also think something to keep important is one thing that I find a lot of people who play 2 blind have problems with is the fact that there was that you could have any type of blade on any driver. And I feel like that amount of customization, while great on high level play and great for, it's very overwhelming to people who are just playing. And I feel like a lot of the game for Xenoblade is people who just play through the main story. And so I feel like that level of customization should also be kept in mind, where you should limit the main party members to a few types of roles, so it's easier to manage your head around what each party member does, even if there's a customization to it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I will say that as much as I liked having more characters in 1 than 2, I did feel as if like in 1 I was like more or like in 2 I was like more focused on which driver to pick, because there was only 5 to pick from versus I think there was 7 in the first game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So, you have anything else to say, or we'll go to the next person, Jerry?
I feel just a few like more nitpicky thing. Obviously, tutorials, they need to start getting good at their tutorials again. The
Yes.
Xenoblade 1 had perfectly fine tutorials, and then X and 2 were both notoriously bad with their tutorials.
Those were just text dumps.
And
Right.
so
There's a difference between a tutorial where you walk the player through doing whatever you're teaching them to do, and just putting a bunch of text and then saying, have fun, you're on your own.
Yeah, and also into like they expected you to like buy from the informant to like learn like fusion combos and stuff like that. which is like, bro, who's gonna actually? Well, I mean, I'm sure people will, but I mean, like, just someone who's playing casually, they're probably not gonna do that, you know.
The informant stuff was like one line of text that didn't tell you anything anyway, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was just tutorials were very badly handled in 2 and X, and I don't think even people who love the games will admit the tutorials are terrible.
Yes.
So I feel like that's one thing that I personally want to see from the gameplay is just way better tutorials, and I also just would like to see more variation with the art system. We've seen the art system in all 3 games, and most of like the arts do very similar things across all 3 games. We've seen arts that have increased damage from the back, from the side, from the front, all that stuff, and it's like, and I feel like it would be nice to see new types of arts with new types of effects that are more varied and have more interesting uses in general.
Yep. I will be talking about some of that, I guess. Well, not a lot, but I do have some things which they could do on that. So I guess I'll say my thing then, since I mentioned my thing. So what I would like to see for the comeback is it could be somewhat similar to 2, where basically like you have arts, but you have like, what do you call, less arts than X and 1, but instead what you also have is you have what do you call, specials. And in my case, what I think the specials could be is they can be either 2 things. One, they can just be, or some specials can just be a more powerful art, you know, or 2, they can, it can be like a team attack. Well, not team attack, but like a tagged like move. Think like Nia and Pyra's special move, where like it's like a joint special move, but like there's way more of these between like characters, and like in the settings, then like you can pick, okay, so I would like character A and B to, you know, to like do a special move together, you know, when and I think that could be pretty cool. And as for, I think chain attacks, I'm gonna be honest with you, I feel like chain attacks are kind of lazy, because all you're basically doing is just the regular special or arts, and you just do it in succession. So what I think could be pretty interesting is we could have, instead of a chain attack, we could have a team attack, or where basically it's like one giant move which does a lot of damage, but like everyone does something, or every character does something, and they work together. And what could be more interesting is, depending on the party you pick and their affinity which they have between them, like, you know, that move will do more damage. I think that could be pretty interesting.
And that's just something like the Pawn Spectre system, or an all-out attack or something.
I think that's what he means. Yeah.
Would there be anything interactive within the attack, or is it just like you do the attack? It's okay. So like, what would be the interactive part within the chain attack, or whatever it's called?
I think like pressing the, or like, what do you call, like a sort of quick time events, but like one which is not too complex, but one which is not too easy, where it's just pressing A. I feel like, you know, if it's between like 3 buttons, you know, I think it could work, because again, once you play it, or like once you play more, it's gonna become muscle memory anyways. But like but yeah, so like a quick time event, but like one which is not too hard but not too simple as well, could be
so like the salvaging ones that have like random ones, like some salvaging points into have random prompts that they give you. So that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I honestly don't think that would be that great, just myself. I feel like every special you do in a chain attack in Xenoblade 2 already has a QT attached to it anyway. So I don't think it's really... It's honestly more lazy, I feel, because I felt like the Pawn Spectre system in Future Connected was just pretty lazy as a replacement to chain attacks, because it gave you less options. It's like, okay, you can do this big attack and do a bunch of damage, or you can daze the enemy for a while, or you can heal yourself, and that was like the 3 options it gave you, but they all basically just had you take you through a very quick QTE sequence, and that was it. If they're gonna do some kind of special move like that, there needs to be more thought put into it than that, in my opinion, at least.
I feel like an interesting way to add on to that would be, so each character would provide certain things to the attack, and when you go into the attack, you have to think about selecting. So it's like if you have your 3 party members, you could select the order for the attack, and so like the first person you select provides 1 roll to the attack, the second person provides another roll, and the third provides a third roll. So each party provides something unique for these team attacks, and the order of which you choose to put them into the team attack would also affect things. I feel like that might be a bit complicated to implement, but it would at least make it a bit more interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and the final thing I can say is like I think the so in 2, like when you swap between blades, I feel like that could work perfectly if instead of blades like you just had different weapons too. So yeah, so just change the blade icon to be like a hammer or a gun or like whatever the weapon is, for that type.
So like in X where you switch between swords and guns.
I have not played X, so I can't say on that. So I'm sure you guys have played X, so you guys can confirm on that.
It's not exactly the same thing. You can just change your auto attacks, but you can if you have the art palette like the first Xenoblade game, it'll automatically swap weapons depending on whatever art you use.
Yeah. So you like are saying like each weapon would have its own unique set of arts. But how many arts would each weapon have?
I feel like the 4 were sufficient in 2 because because like you could pick from like 10 or so different weapons or blades blade weapon classes, I mean to say. So yeah, I feel like 4 or 5 would be about enough because then basically if you can pick between like multiple weapons, so it's like 4 times the 3 is 12. So if you can pick 4 weapons, then then that's 12 arts. All right. Yeah.
I had an idea for the gameplay, and this is probably just going to completely steal Enel's idea.
Okay.
I think that they should continue with what they did with Xenoblade 2, of having the art set to different buttons. But what if they made it more action-focused, kind of like Xenogears and Xenosaga 1, where pressing a certain combination of buttons would do a different attack?
Yeah.
And then that's like an easy way to get more art without bringing back the clunky art palette.
So like canceling arts into arts, but when you do that, it sort of fuses the arts into a new art.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Thinking about that idea, that would make it, like it's more engaging and it makes the game, what do you call, less lazy, and it makes you think more. Okay, so I have to press this button after this button to like do this attack. So yeah, I feel like that could be fun. And but what about you, Enel?
Well, I think that regardless of what they do, I'll probably end up liking it. They usually do a pretty good job with the combat system. But the one main thing I really want to see, first of all, is give me the ability to change between party members during combat.
Oh my god, yes.
That is what I would really like.
Why did I not think of that?
Because that is such an easy way to add depth to the combat system and just give you a ton of more options. Just to be able to swap. Like, imagine if you could swap between like Rex and Tora during combat and base Xenoblade 2. Everything would be so much better. Instead of just swapping between blades, you can swap between the party members during combat itself.
If they did like the Torna system.
Also add a way to even swap between blades or party members that aren't even in combat currently. Like add a way to do that as well. So you can
what they did in Xenosaga with where you could like switch between like.
Yes, that's a standard thing in a lot of turn-based games. So it's also the thing in a lot of other action RPGs as well. You can just swap characters at will. That gives you a lot more options just right off the bat. As far as what was said earlier, I think something I would like to see, because I expect the next game in a way to have a lot of characters, just because I feel like it might be a mashup of previous casts in the series, except maybe Xenogears because of Square Enix and all that kind of stuff. But so what I would like to see, maybe a similar system to Torna, where each character has their designated partner, like Shion, Cosmos, Momo, Vicky, Shulk, Alvis or Fior or something like that. Because since the Xenoblade 2 characters already have their blades, obviously, I think you could easily have each character have their own like pair-up partner, and they could all have like different like support effects for the main partner, and you can just like swap between those two as well, and they get access to entirely different arts and skill effects. Mostly, I just want there to be something to be doing at all times, like if you can use this art, cancel it into this art, cancel it into swapping into this character, they can use this art, who can use this special move or something like that. I just like stuff like that, being able to have that kind of complexity in combat where you can always be doing something and just I'll always be active in combat. I think X and 2 did a really good job of being able to do that, because X has the overdrive system, which drastically reduces all art cooldowns, makes you always doing something. There's always something to think about and focus on, whether you want to keep up your overdrive with TP and all that kind of stuff, or if you want to just use your buffs and all that as well, or in Xenoblade 2, if you want to cancel this art, want to use this blade, want to use the special, get party meter, use the chain attack. There's just so many options that the games give you, and that's one of the things I really like about it. And I think that's something that I know someone mentioned that they don't want like too much like overwhelming customization for newcomers, and I can kind of understand that. But at the same time, I feel like customization and complexity just add so much to a game, and if there's more of it, then you just get so much replay value out of that. Especially if they add so many like unique monsters or another challenge mode or something like that. So I think what we need is something that has like a low skill floor but like a high skill ceiling. I feel like Xenoblade 2 in a way had that. They just had bad tutorials, but you can kind of get through Xenoblade 2 just spamming like crit heal myth or rolling smash or something and not have to worry that much, even if don't actually understand the game that much. But for the most part, yeah, I think something that has low skill floor but high skill ceiling is the way to go. Like, because I feel like Xenoblade 1, you don't really have many options in the game like that, so that's probably one of the something I don't want to see. I want to see something more akin to the complexity of X and 2 as far as the skill ceiling, but maybe more of the skill floor of Xenoblade 1, if that makes any sense.
Yes, it does. So it's like easy to like start, but like it's hard to like master it, is what you mean to say. Yes, yeah. Okay.
So
if Xenoblade 3 as just a worse, dumbed down version of Future Connected gameplay.
I mean, if that were to be the case, then like I will not buy the game.
Nah, it won't be. I don't believe it.
They can't. They probably won't make it.
I would play
very dumbed
terrible,
down,
crappy game if I could play as Tyrea.
Oh gosh. Okay.
But,
no.
Also, one thing about what you said, Enel. But what about Alan?
What about Alan? I don't know, man. Don't worry about him.
Who's Alan? I'm sorry, what?
No, it's the Xeno Saga game. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay.
I like the idea that was brought up earlier about the just being able to use different combinations of buttons to do different arts, because I think that's something that it was cool to do in Xeno Saga 1 and Xenogears, but that's also was a turn-based mechanic, but I could see them put it in an action-based game as well. Just giving you different options based on what you're doing. Maybe they could bring back the boost mechanic somehow. I feel like they would have to have like it tied to like holding down a button, and if you got like a boost meter, you can instantly use another art that you've maybe already used like immediately before, or instantly use another special move or something.
I've thought of one more idea for gameplay that isn't really so much related to combat, but it just came back to me while I was thinking about making it more like a Xeno Saga. I want to see traditional dungeons again, and maybe even some where like something more puzzle focused, and like
I wasn't even thinking about the gameplay outside of combat, but
and maybe even have dungeons where you play in some kind of mech,
Like, the ES section
like the
in
ES.
dungeons?
I say limit it to just dungeons because obviously if they give a giant robot for open world areas, then you kind of
They did
have
that
to
next.
well, it's harder because then you have to design the whole open world around that. So,
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
to make a more linear story-focused game than limiting them to just dungeons, or maybe what if they're just limited to dungeons and then large open areas? Maybe they could make like mechs that are more like limited than something like Scales, where like you can't fly around, but maybe they're just faster way to get around big areas.
Uh-huh.
Makes
Then
sense.
Alrighty, welcome back to the juicy part of this podcast. So, just so you guys know, this part is going to contain spoilers, so if you haven't played any of the games, you might want to not
That
be
includes
here.
Xeno Saga, Xenogears, Xenoblade
That
1,
includes
2, and
all
X.
Xeno games. Now, if possible, I will try to have a timestamp for the Saga and Gears because I know that many people who play Xenoblade, they may not have played Saga and Gears. So
Losers.
Hey, I'm not a loser. but anyways, so I'll have a timestamp or a separate one for you guys. Alrighty, so I guess Soy Sauce, would you like to go first?
Okay, so here's my theory. Here's what I'm gonna put down for plot. This is theorizing that Saga and Chronicles 2 are both the same world. Because what I thought was that at the end of Saga 3, when they warp the Zohar along with Zarathustra, to Earth. They warped it to the Earth in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and the conduit, as it was called on Earth, was found as the Zohar by Klaus, and Klaus began his experiments, and so then XE1 and XE2 happened. What I hope to see for plot is I'd like to see Shion, Alan Jr. They find Earth, they find Allrest, and they discover Allrest, and then Rex and the gang somehow meet or encounter Shion and the Saga crew. And then we go from there in terms of story for them. But I think if they're going to do a plot or for a Chronicles 3, they need to do it in 2 or 3 parts, because in order to build up a monumentous collection of all the games, you're gonna need to do a lot of background building. It's gonna be kind of like Zack Snyder's Justice League. You're gonna if you're gonna do like a full-fledged story like that, you're gonna need a decent amount of time and game time to build up that story. Like for part 1, I would probably do like connecting Saga and Xenoblade 2. And then for part 2, I'd probably do connecting Xenoblade 1. Then for part 3, I'd do for part 2, I'd do connecting 1 and X to 2 and Saga. Then after that, I would do the culmination. For part 3, I would do like the culmination of everything and end it off on a good note.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Is
So
that-
from
I didn't know if there's anything else. Sorry.
Well,
no,
I might add more to what I might say more later, but depending on what other people say. But yeah. Oh, sorry.
so
I forgot to mention this.
yeah.
So we all know how Cosmos, how Cosmos' soul is in Cosmos Re, in the blade in Xenoblade 2. Like Shion somehow Shion discovers that Cosmos is still somehow alive in the form of Cosmos Reborn.
That's not really true.
Yeah, I know it's not. I know it's not. It's not Mary. It's not Mary Magdalene, which that's probably never
the
going to happen.
Cosmos' body's floating towards Lost Jerusalem at the end of Saga 3. Also, there's the fact that, since are we reacting to what you were saying? Well, I don't think it takes place in the same universe. It's just not really possible unless there was some kind of very weird time shenanigans happening, because the Zohar was discovered in Saga about the same time period that the conduit was discovered in the Xenoblade 2 universe, and there's just no way they can really align because of that. Because
they were discovered at around the same time. Then my whole theory is thrown out of whack.
yeah, because
Then
it was both
screw my theory.
20XX in AD, but Xenosaga takes place in 4667 or so TC, which is after AD. And Xenoblade 2 takes place like 10,000 years after all that other stuff or so, something like that. So it's just not possible for it to be really the same world at all.
Then screw my theory. Screw my theory.
So,
Yeah.
Hey.
I just like to see in this prioritizing connecting the different games. I'd like to see Saga and 2, then 1X, 2 and Saga, then a culmination of everything. That's what I would like to see.
I'll explain things in my theory.
Yeah, go
in a
ahead.
Second.
All right. Yeah.
You want me to go then?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, so ending of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. We got the experiment scene with Klaus and everything, and Rex and Co. They go talk to him after we see that recap of everything. What we learn is that there are multiple universes. Klaus literally explains this in detail. The conduit is a gate to other universes. That is what he says. The conduit is also known as the Zohar. It was called the Zohar in the files. We have reason to believe it was originally going to be called the Zohar before they decided to get rid of the religious reference of it, and it was going to be the same thing, as since we have the Zohar in Xenogears and Xenosaga as well. I don't think Xenogears is going to come back at all because of Square Enix copyright issues, but Xenosaga is still very much owned by Monolith Software. So, that takes us to the next part, Future Connected. Future Connected, Takahashi said was supposed to give us some insight on the future of the series. But if you look at the story of Future Connected itself, it doesn't really seem to be like it's leading anywhere at first glance, because, well, it just concludes everything. It concludes Melia's story, and it doesn't seem like it can really go anywhere from that. But I think the thing that actually is important was the Fog King. And the Fog King came from another dimension, which could have been a different universe or something like that. And the Fog King has a lot of similarities to an enemy from the Xenosaga series called the Gnosis. A lot of similarities. The fact that you can't even hit it or anything or interact with it without using something to basically solidify it. In Shulk's case, it was just explained as a giant ether wave he used with the Monado Replica EX, but it was very, very similar, what he did, to an effect called the Hilbert effect, which is something that is used in the Xenosaga universe, something Cosmos has access to. You can even see it in her level 2 special in Xenoblade 2, the Cosmos RE version. Speaking of which, Cosmos and Cosmos RE are not the same at all, and the body of Cosmos was flying towards Earth at the end, basically lost Jerusalem and everything. So, now moving on to the Xenoblade X portion of this. So Xenoblade X, as you know, if you played the game, it has a very, very bad and annoying ending where you get the something about this planet moment, where basically the Lifehold core we learned was destroyed the entire time. The Lifehold core being, of course, where the memories and souls of humanity are supposed to be stored while they're outside of their mems. And we learn that it was destroyed the entire time. So how is all of these memes functioning and still alive? Everything is supposed to not be working right. Well, I think if you have played Xenosaga, you also know about the collective unconscious, which is sort of how humanity's souls are stored in that game, which is basically through the power of Zohar and Udu, they're basically able to function and live. So I think it's possible that the Zohar could be located somewhere on Mirror, and if we ever get an X2, that could also be how that gets explained, and how that game ends up getting tied in, since the Zohar is supposed to be a multiversal source of like infinite power and energy, and that also means it makes sense that it can appear in multiple universes. I think it's not impossible that it could be in multiple universes at the same time being used by multiple people, just because of how much power it has and what it is used for. But even then, even if it's not, it's possible it could be disappearing at the end of like a certain game and then going to a different universe and then being used there and all that kind of stuff, because that could also be an option as well, since we see it disappear at the end of Xenoblade 2, especially. The conduit, that is. Basically the same thing, of course. So, I think if we're trying to tie everything together, the most likely thing is that these areas in the universes are connected to each other in their respective universes. Like, Lost Jerusalem and Xenosaga could be connected to All Rest and Xenoblade 2, since they were both originally Earth. And at the end of Xenosaga, we see Cosmos' body barreling towards Earth. We know that Xion and Ko are trying to find it. We know that Shulk's universe is a parallel dimension to specifically to the Xenoblade 2 universe. So we know that basically Earth is probably somewhere located around all three of these universes. We know Earth is destroyed in the Xenoblade X universe, though, so that's kind of going to throw a wrench in that plan for a little bit. But we know that there can be some kind of overlap there, and maybe just the fact that everything is leading back to maybe like an Earth eventually. Like when All Rest was destroyed at the end of Xenoblade 2, we know Klaus created that new kind of world, or maybe even connected it to the world of Xenoblade 1. We don't actually really know because we don't see anything on the end of that. But basically, there's probably a way that they're going to be able to have these parallel dimensions, and there's going to be a way these casts are going to be able to unite. Because we saw the Gnosis Fog King travel to the world of Xenoblade 1. And so we know that there's dimensional travel is going to be a possibility. And we know that Gnosis exists in the Xenosaga universe, basically the same thing as the Fog King. These creatures that are basically unhittable. They are... It's more apt to say that they're the humanity, the consciousness of humanity that have rejected themselves, but we won't really get into that here. But we know that if Takahashi was correct in saying that the Future Connect is supposed to give us a glimpse into the future of the series, and that means something like the Gnosis is going to be very important. So something like the Fog King is going to be very important later on. That's the only thing it could be that's going to end up being important, because everything else in Xenoblade 1 was resolved. So if there is some kind of Gnosis crisis in the Xenoblade world, I think that's going to lead it back to Saga being actually important. And considering that the Zohar and the multiverse was established at the end of Xenoblade 2, I think that's something that could definitely happen. I don't know if it would happen necessarily in Xenoblade 3 where everything combines, but I think sometime in the future, the games and the cast could end up being involved with each other, and there's going to be some kind of big multiversal threat and everything like that. And I think that's going to be something that's going to end up being very important. And if you remember the Monolith 20th anniversary fan art, you remember that Cosmos was front and center of it, despite Xenosaga not having a game since 2006. And if you know anything about the lore of Xenosaga, you know Xenosaga was supposed to continue past the first 3 episodes, and it ended up not being able to do that because of reasons, of course, but I think there might be some reason to eventually revisit that. Cosmos was supposed to end up being even more important than she ended up being, so I could see her coming back as like the main figure in all of Xeno, and being something that everything ends up revolving around. And I think that's probably what's going to end up being important later on. And I could see the cast of Saga coming back together. I could see the cast of the Blade games coming together to work together. I think there will need to be an X2 first to tie in some loose threads from that game, and I think there might even need to be another game to like kind of get us to that point. But that's kind of where I can see the series direction going in the future, and I would not at all be surprised to see ports of Xenosaga coming very, very soon. But maybe that's just me, and those are kind of my theories on everything and how I think everything's going to end up tying together.
add a little bit more evidence to potential ports for Xenosaga, did you guys see the copyright for Baked Kaitos?
Yeah.
I believe
Namco just made.
I actually don't know, cause I know with Gears there's some copyright issues, but I believe there still is some copyright issues with Saga as well with Sony. I might be
Not Sony.
No, Sony has no hand
No?
in
Yeah.
Saga
It's
at all.
Namco and Monolith. That's it.
Namco and Monolith,
Okay,
and
alright.
Takahashi
Never
can
mind then. Okay.
practically pull anything from what's it called from Saga.
Because I was talking to someone and I'm sure these guys are probably or they might not be saying anything correct, but I heard that that there is some copyright issue which is what do you call stopping them from like porting over the Saga games to the Switch or to the other consoles at least, which is why they haven't done so yet. But
I don't think that's necessarily it, but
yeah,
I don't know. We'll see.
It's
Those are
mostly
just my
owned
theories.
by Namco, but
Yeah.
I know
the
that
reason
was-
people are thinking it's unlikely is Namco literally said that someone, I don't remember who it was that worked at Namco. It was actually a big name. Said that the Xenosaga remaster was in the works, but then got canceled.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Harada. Harada.
Oh, it got canceled. Okay. Okay.
But this was a long
yeah.
time ago. And it wasn't that it got canceled. It's that they planned it and it just failed a market analysis. But this was a while back, and it's possible that it would not fail a market analysis anymore given the popularity of Xenoblade. And that's why I think we might see something eventually pretty soon here.
I think
because,
we'll probably see.
There have been
something
no
to the
updates
extent-
from him. There has been no discussion about that in a while, so I would not be surprised if we see something soon.
I
Now,
think what we'll most likely see
we-
is
I-
like a Xenosaga collection, like a 3-in-1
Yeah,
kinda deal.
I could see that as well.
instead
It
of
might-
them releasing
might
3
do,
separate games.
Might be re-releasing Baten Kaitos first, and then seeing how that sells. And going off of that, they might remaster Xenosaga, because next year is the 20th anniversary for Xenosaga.
Yeah. Well,
If they do Baten Kaitos this year, then
we'll see if something like that ends up happening. It's entirely possible that Xenoblade 3 just has an entirely new cast and story, and I'm just BSing, but who knows? We'll see.
yes, yeah, because again, like they don't have to connect everything. Like they can just.
Well, it
do
would seem kind of
completely-
weird if they didn't do that because they just
Yeah,
did that with
but-
Xenoblade 2.
Yeah, it would just be weird if
obviously.
they didn't, mostly because of the future connected thing myself. I think there's got to be some kind of connection in the future just because of that multiversal dimensional travel thing.
Yeah,
I'm
I'd
just
love to
thinking-
see some.
I'm just going to be
connection
kind
at
of sad
least to-
because, Gears is going to probably end up getting left out of everything.
Yeah, Gears would definitely probably be
Copyright
left
sucks,
out.
man.
Poor Fi.
I personally think that they do plan on incorporating everything because of what they made comments about Future Connected, about how they started connecting things in 2. But I don't think if there's a Xenoblade 3, I don't think Xenoblade 3 would be that game. I think they would have a new Xeno suffix for that one. Maybe like Xenoverse or something, but
Well,
I feel like it would.
can't do Xenoverse because Dragon Ball has that.
Yeah,
True.
I was gonna
I
say.
didn't even think about Dragon Ball, but you know what I mean? I feel like that might
Yeah,
get
yeah.
a new suffix on
Yeah, yeah,
a new
got
Xeno
you.
suffix for that.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
plot twist. What if the Fog King and Fog Beast have nothing to do with the future of the Xeno series, and the thing that Future
That wouldn't make any
Connected
sense.
builds up?
That-
I
that-
don't know. I don't
Is
know
that-
what else would be in Future Connected. That would be the future of the series, though.
It turns
I
out
mean,
that
when
Gaelgar
I
is
f-
actually going to be the Wilhelm of the new Xenoblade.
No.
When I first saw Future Connected, I thought that wait, so are we gonna
Screw
get
Klaus,
like
Gaelgar
Rex
is going to be
in
the most
in
important villain.
Xenoblade 1? But like, yeah, that's not what Future Connected meant, unfortunately. So I was like, ah. But yeah, so I guess you guys. So I guess I'll hear from Jerry now. What is your thing that they could do for the lore? I guess.
Well, personally, if I think they do a Xenoblade 3, as I said, I personally think they will leave all the connection stuff to a new suffix title. but for Xenoblade 3, I would find it interesting if they expanded on what happened to both Alvis and the Conduit at the end of 1 and 2. And that's how they connected back into Blades 1 and 2. Because those are the two connections of things that disappeared. Alvis disappeared at the end of 1, and the Conduit disappeared at the end of 2. And it's very likely that they probably disappeared to the same wherever they disappeared to. So it would be interesting to follow that. I don't have an idea of an exact plot.
All right, so Zeke, what about you?
Well, clearly, with they set up with Xenoblade 2, they are clearly making another Perfect Works story. Just how similar Xenoblade 2 is with a lot of things in Xenosaga and to Xenogears. I'd like to see them actually to make the full story, even if it isn't quite as ambitious as older Xeno games. I think that, like something, the depth of Xenoblade 2 and Torna would be good. I think that at times Xenogears and Xenosaga get way too ambitious, and that's kind of what kills them with trying to make every little detail make sense. So I think that if they were to finish a simplified version of Perfect Works, then I would be happy.
Interesting.
I'd like to see at some point a prequel with Klaus and learning more about the Conduit, because Xenoblade 2 and Torna basically perfectly with episodes 4 and 5 of Perfect Works.
Isn't Xenogears episode 5 though?
Xenoblade 2 and Xenogears have pretty similar stories.
Oh, I did not. Oh, okay.
I mean, the Xeno series as a whole reuses character ideas all the time.
Yeah. Well, technically, Xenoblade 1's story is more similar to Xenogears, but even then, Xenoblade 2 is kind of like more Xenoblade 1 again, but just different.
I see what you mean, yeah. So basically, from what I hear is like, you'd like to see a game which is not too ambitious, but so it can be like a little toned down, except like the game is perfect on its own. It's like it's flawless, and it's like, and it has full quality over quantity, is what I hear. Okay, I see. Interesting.
All of the older Xeno games have so much cut stuff and were intended to be so much larger, but Xenoblade 2, I think, actually really nailed it with what they actually put into it.
Yeah.
So I think.
What even was cut from Xenoblade 2? Like, do you guys know? I mean, I don't, because I don't hear.
The only thing I know for certain that was cut from Xenoblade 2 was that Torna was going to be part of the main story, but then they made it DLC because that would throw off the pacing so much.
From
it was a great choice.
Yeah, all I know is that Jin was supposedly supposed to be with us a little bit longer in Chapter 8, but I mean, that may have just been that the voice actor just recorded the lines with other characters because, of misdirection, which, there obviously was with the VAs or with the VA directors, but yeah.
I don't know too many of the details of everything that was like cut from Xenoblade 2, and I mean, smaller stuff like that would probably wouldn't even mean much.
Yeah, I don't think
I just mean like with the amount of depth, like there is so much Xenosaga lore you could read about, is terrifying, is on a completely different level from any of the Xenoblade games, with the exception of maybe X.
Okay.
Xenosaga and Xenogears are huge.
Alrighty. Alright, so I guess I'll say my idea. Now, I do have a sort of like a plot story. I know this is probably not gonna happen or at all, but yeah. So basically, for me, I'm gonna focus on just 1 and 2 as together-ish, sort of. So yeah. So I think that this is gonna take place, like Jerry said. It's gonna take place wherever Antos or Alvis is, and wherever he is likely where the conduit is as well. I definitely think that that if he's alive, which I hope so. So this is what's gonna be, and basically now I do tie this lore to my gimmick prediction because why not? I mean, I know it's probably not gonna happen, but but I'm just saying, I guess you could say a fanfic or what could happen ish. But yeah, so what could happen is, so in this Alvis, he uses the conduit and he makes like these like different weapons or blades, as I mentioned earlier, and he spreads them across different universes. And as for why, I don't know exactly why. I haven't thought of that much, but yeah. So and the reason why he does this is because so we can explore the multiverse, because as we know, the multiverse does exist. So yeah, and I think it could be really cool if in a game we could actually travel to another multiverse as we travel to like Titans in Xenoblade 2. Like basically like you get into a spaceship or some sort of or some sort of like futuristic device, and you travel to another dimension. That could be pretty interesting. And by device it could just be the conduit itself. Like, and Alvis Alvis can snap his fingers and do that somehow, which he probably can actually. I don't even know. But yeah, so and I guess and what they could do as some fan service, but like also some like lore, is like you could visit Allrest and even the world of Shulk, but like depending on when this happens, we may or may not see like Pyra, Mithra again, or I mean it depends on the time frame. I mean Pyra and Mithra, I think they're probably gonna live forever unless they get killed by some tragic way, so they'll be alive. But I'm talking about, I think, I should say Shulk and Rex. Like those guys probably will not be there unless it happens to take place not so long after the events of 1 and 2. And yeah, so basically, we try, and I don't know how exactly the plot can be, but this is a basic, guess you could say basic plot outline where they travel across the different universes, and and they find weapons, and and yeah, and there's there could be a interdimensional threat as well, thrown in there too, if it's gonna be a multiverse type game. And yeah, that's all I have to say for that.
I just had two really cool ideas.
Mm-hmm.
While you were talking about Pyra and Mithra still existing, I had the idea of what if eventually they made a game down the line where long after a lot of the characters that we know are gone, and if they continued from Xenoblade 2 and had the blade system back or something like that, like if after Rex dies, the Aegis core crystals are like sealed away somewhere until some like big threat comes, and then someone else needs to awaken them sometime in the distant future.
Mm-hmm. That could work, but I feel like that would work better as like a movie or an anime. I feel like that would not. I don't know. I mean, it could work as a game too. I mean, hey, who am I to say? But yeah, I kind of have a feeling, though I know this is going slightly off topic, but I feel like they might do something with 2 as well, because they did add Pyra and Mithra in Smash, so it could be that maybe that they are working on something and they're trying to hype up a Xenoblade as a whole they're trying to hype up Xenoblade, or they're trying to hype up Pyra and Mithra, because something could be going on with them. I don't know.
What if Xenoblade 3 is a dating simulator?
Okay, are you talking about Persona?
Okay. What?
Right.
Oh, I thought he was gonna make a meme about Tyrea or something.
No, I was gonna talk. The dating simulators are Persona games.
Oh, okay. I did not know that, but okay.
and Fire Emblem Three Houses. That's another dating simulator.
Okay.
Undertale.
No.
All right. So I guess you guys have anything else to add to this category, or you guys think we're good to go?
I think that's it.
All
Tyrea
right,
is
you get.
if Tyrea is in the next game and the next game has good gameplay, then it will automatically be better than Xenoblade 1.
Alrighty, so before Craig dies on us, I guess we'll say our goodbyes. So
Yeah.
yeah, so if you so thank you guys for making it till the end if you did, and yeah, so I guess we'll see you guys in the next podcast.
All right.
Remember,
Peace.
Tyrea
Yeah.
is best girl.